Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Operation A5. We are here with the boys.
Yeah.
Let's go. It's going to be an awesome episode today. But before we get into it, just want to say thank you to everybody for supporting us on Instagram, on YouTube, on Spotify. We appreciate every single repost. We appreciate every single shout out. We absolutely love you guys. And thank you so much for being patient with us as we continue to grow this thing and build it from the ground up.
Yeah.
But today is a special episode, guys.
Yeah.
We have a man of God with us.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
sir.
have a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
A vegan bodybuilder,
That's
which
right.
is the biggest paradox.
Yeah.
You know, biggest paradox you'll ever see in your life. But
Whatever you heard of 1.5 grams per pounds that you weigh of protein that you need to eat.
It's a lie.
It's getting debunked today.
we have someone that, you know, he's a brother to us, and
Our
he's
first pastor on the podcast.
our first pastor on the podcast.
Yeah.
We have our youth pastor, Pastor Fe Castrillon. Let's give it up.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, man. We appreciate, you
Yeah,
you
thank you so
blessing
much.
us with with your presence here, man. It's gonna be fun. And I guess just to get into it, just walk us through, who you are. Like, what makes Pastor Fe right now? What brought you, to the Lord? I know, you have a bit of a prodigal story.
Oh man. So there's gonna be different versions of Faye.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that to start it off, coming to God and all that, I was 14.
Okay.
And I went through a really dark time in my life. Depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, all these things.
Oh, wow.
Found God through a quote unquote like a dinner party in somebody's house.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where the journey started for me. I felt God for the first time. I had heard of God, being raised Catholic, I've heard of God, but I never felt him. I didn't know that I could.
Right.
But in that moment, I just felt like God's love for the first time, just embrace you and all that.
Yeah.
So then fast forward, to the prodigal point, I was in a relationship when I was maybe like 20 to 21, around there. And it was after we broke up that I went AWOL. I was like, yo, I'm free.
Yeah.
So I'm going free for real. Like, I'm going wild.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that's dangerous, it's so much freedom.
Yeah.
And I think that after that relationship, just everything, like my whole life fell apart. I felt like I just went back all the way to the beginning.
Yeah.
Lost my relationship with God, everything. But in a sense, I was still with him. I was still there. I was still communicating. I was actually still going to church. And I was actually still a youth leader at this time.
Oh, wow.
I had been a youth
So you've
leader.
been a youth leader for a minute.
Man, I've been there for a long time. So the first time I stepped into our church, I was, I think I was 19 going on 20.
Wow.
I came in, it was like a young adult service or whatever. At first, I didn't like anybody because I played basketball with everybody. And everybody was mean. And I was like, yo, I don't know about these Christians. But I'm not trying to be about Christians that are bullying me playing basketball.
What's funny is that looking at Pastor Fe, you would think
He's the
mean
bully.
one.
He's the bully.
You've never seen him more tatted up. you pastor.
So it was stepping into, I promise, stepping into the church for the first time. I was in the basketball court. And I was like, why is everyone so mean? Why is everybody like, I was like, I'm never coming back here. This is terrible. And I went
That
back.
was at our church, right?
That was at our church. It was called Central Bible Assemblies of God.
Quite the mouth.
Yeah. So went there and I became a youth leader maybe a year later.
Okay.
So that's when I was living in Miami. I moved out. I went to West Palm. I lived there with some family up in West Palm. Left my parents' house for the first time, figuring it out. So but I came back to Miami a year later. And that's when I really committed to the church that we're at, Brave now. But after that, man, God, I went through the process, of being a prodigal a couple years later through that breakup. But then I didn't last too long. I didn't last too long without God.
Yeah.
I think that once you experience him, it's hard to keep going without him.
Right.
Right. So
That's good.
it was a quick one.
Yeah.
Was a prodigal,
Right.
but it was quick.
Yeah.
Thank
It was-
God.
thank God. It was maybe like less than a year.
Oh, dude.
Less than a year.
Bro.
Dang.
But it felt so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt so long. I felt
Feels
like
like
I
an
had been
eternity, bro.
Yeah, it felt so long. But what really brought me back was remembering that I had students that would look up to me, and I'm living this
Like a double life.
double life at this time. So I'm just like, if I'm not doing it for me, let me do it for them.
Wow.
So I think that's when I fell in love with youth ministry and all that, and I never planned on being in ministry, but God has done his thing.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of like the core
Yeah.
beginnings and all that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I
So-
guess go.
Yeah. So how long from that moment, right, to now being pastor, right? How is that transition right there, right?
Man, so
Did you even see yourself as a pastor?
absolutely not. No way.
Because everybody's so accustomed to seeing, hey, Faye, what's up? Now it's like, hey, Pastor Faye.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Look, I want to be honest with you, man. I told my wife the other day, I'm like, man, it's so weird, but in a good way. And I find it sometimes difficult to be like, I used to know Faye and Yessie as Faye and Yessie.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I gotta be like, hey, Pastor Faye, Pastor Yessie.
Right? Yeah, 100%.
And it was like from one moment to the next, and obviously out of honor. Like I know Joe's always told me like, hey, if they're a pastor, they're a pastor,
Yeah.
and you honor that,
Yeah.
that title. And man, for me, it's been, it's been a rough transition.
Trust me. You think it's been a rough transition for you, but hearing it
Yeah.
is weird.
Yeah.
Especially going what you just asked. I never thought that I would be a pastor. I never imagined it. In fact, I was like, I don't even want it. Like, I'm not trying to do this.
Yeah.
I first felt kind of moved towards like ministry when I was like 21, 22. And it was after a youth camp.
Gotcha.
Went to a youth camp and I saw how, all the encounters that
Yeah.
students were having. And I was like, man, I want to do this forever.
Yeah.
But then I was like, hold up. Do I really want to do this forever? That's a lot of pressure. I don't know if I really want to do this.
You're like, I don't know about this one.
Yeah. So because I felt like, I said at that moment. So God's like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
So for years I ran from it. I believe that I would have been there. I would have been in some type of ministry way before if I didn't run from it. I ran from it for years.
Yeah.
I ran from it for years, from 22 to 28. I was just like, no.
That's a pretty big Jonah season.
Yeah. And I remember somebody told me the year that I kind of just started like, God brings you out, right?
yeah.
Like Gideon, like he's calling you out. So
Yeah.
he just threw me out there, and everything was, I feel like God put me through a fast pass
Yeah.
as soon as I finally said, okay, yes.
Right.
Even coming into staff, I came in as the next steps guy.
Yeah.
Like whatever the next process is, people coming in. Even then, I was still doubting to be there. And I was like, I don't think I'm called to ministry. I'm just here. I'm just here because honestly, I hate cutting hair. I don't want to cut hair anymore. I like being at church.
Right.
So I'm just like, I'm chilling. Like, this is going to be fun. Like,
Right.
This is better than what I was already doing.
Yeah.
So I was still on staff doubting everything. I was like, there's no way that I even belong here. So I didn't expect to do it. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. So that transition was a rough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Transition from just being a barber in Miami,
Yeah.
a kid in Miami, to now a pastor. Bro, is you saying, like I said, you're saying that is weird for you. It is the weirdest thing for me to hear it. And I'm just like, I would never tell anybody or ask somebody to call me that.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it's very weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Now, obviously, like maybe like a year and a half, almost 2 years later, it's just part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
You get accustomed to
Yeah.
it. But in the beginning, I was like, man, why is everyone calling me this? This is weird.
Yeah.
Man, you know what I realized? We have clearly a thing for interviewing barbers. Our third
Number
barber.
three.
Completely
Number
forgot
three.
that You were used to be a
it's,
barber. You used to cut
barber.
my hair.
It's a barber podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, very much.
First pastor, third barber.
There you go.
So going back to what you were saying, Faye, of not belonging, right? How do you still go through that to this day, or is it something that you already dealt with?
100%. I don't think you completely get over it. But it's something that you learn how to battle with.
Okay.
Yeah, you feel like, I mean, how about you guys? Let me ask you guys.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever felt you're in a position that you don't belong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
1000%.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the questions I was going to ask you about your the season we were together on staff.
Yeah.
I totally felt unwanted or like I didn't belong. There were days where I would look at Faye because we did discipleship together at one point, and I was like, "Bro, what are we doing?" Like,
Yeah,
nobody wants to
100%.
talk to me. Nobody, like, we're not doing anything. Like,
Yeah.
and I still have to go on Sunday and love people. Like.
Yep.
So yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's just a small part of my life. I mean, there's been a lot of times where I just don't feel like you belong,
Yeah.
right? But luckily for us, we go to a community of people that that you can turn to, right? There's people that don't have those people, right?
Yeah.
Where they don't have an outlet, So thank God we do.
Yeah.
That there were people in my life like the Renees, like Faye, like these guys here that were the outlet for me. But sadly, there's people that don't have that, But 100%, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about that too, like what that season looked like, because I just felt like we were
100%.
on an island, bro.
100%.
Like they're like, okay, we're not doing discipleship, and then Joe and Faye are just sitting there.
I'll tell you what I did most of the time.
Yeah.
I was watching YouTube.
Okay.
There was nothing to do.
I was watching The Office.
At least he's honest.
I love it.
I was watching The Office, so
I was like, all right, bro, I'm just going to sit here and YouTube some stuff.
yeah. He was like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't know." Like,
Yeah, I remember
we're not
that.
doing discipleship, so
I remember we would be there and we wouldn't know what to do for
Yeah.
days.
yeah. And it felt like everybody else is working and you're not, and you're like, "Bro, I'll go decorate or build something. Let me do something," But I felt isolated.
So we'll talk about that season
Yeah.
because I think that was such an important season for me.
Yeah.
That season, I would wake up like at 5 a.m. That's kind of like when I built my discipline.
Yeah.
That whole season.
Oh wow.
But it was because of anger.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
because of anger that was happening. I hated everyone.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I couldn't
I remember a
stand
meeting we
nobody.
had where you were like, "I don't like any of you."
Yeah, I was like, I don't like none of y'all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust none
It
of you
was real,
guys.
yeah.
Like, I don't like
They
these
were
the
like,
honest friend
let's-
you
But
need.
they were like, "Hey, tell how you really feel." And I know a lot of people said what they wanted to say, but I felt like you and Yessie were real honest. Like,
Yeah.
you guys were like, "I don't like any of you," and I felt it. I'm like, "Man, I love these people," but I understand how they feel. I didn't trust anybody either.
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't trust you. I didn't, and
Yeah.
I love you. And you
Yeah,
said
yeah, for sure.
But I didn't trust anybody.
You just don't know who to trust in those
Right,
situations.
yeah.
You don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think that in that moment, it was more geared towards the people that had been there for a while.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
had just come on.
Right.
So I was just like, I got no problem with Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
I got no problem. But 100%, I felt like in that season, man, I hated everyone. I didn't want to see anybody. So the reason I say that is because at my desk, not only was I watching YouTube, but since I was waking up at 5 a.m.,
Yeah.
I was falling asleep on my desk all the time. All the time. I was like,
Yeah.
I was just because there was nothing to do.
Nothing.
There was nothing to do. And plus I hated everybody, so I didn't care.
Right. Right.
Just like, what are you gonna do? You can't even fire me.
Right.
So I'm chilling. So
Yeah,
I'm just
'cause-
here.
Soaking it up.
You can't even fire me.
It was a weird season, man.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
when
weird.
you were on staff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was weird. It
That
weird.
was like right after all the chaos and everything. We
The
did
weirdness.
one season of discipleship together.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
it was like, oh, we're not
That
doing
was like
it.
8 weeks, no?
Yeah.
For
And then
that.
that was it. And then
that
we were
was
just
it.
sitting there. Like, we were supposed to create curriculum. We were creating the
Oh yeah,
books.
we had a whole plan. We had a whole
Yeah,
plan.
everything. Like,
Everything was just on a standstill.
hey, we're on hold. And it's
Yeah. I guess it's just in that season, man. Obviously everything was up in the air. We didn't even know if we were going to still have a church at the time.
100%,
you know?
yeah.
We didn't know, right? We were all like, shoot.
Everything
Everything was so weird, but clearly God's hand was over our church, right? Because we survived and we're here now. But I think in those seasons, it's just trying to stay faithful, even though while you're angry,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So how did you hold that tension? Because you could have quit.
Like I did.
100%. Yeah.
like Joe did.
Oh my.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember
you could've
Joe,
gone back
I remember
to
Joe
cutting
telling,
hair, all
I
that.
remember Joe telling me like, "Oh, look, I think I'm gonna go back," and I was like, "All right, send me an application because I
Yeah.
might just dip too."
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah," and he sent me one. He's like, "Yeah, for sure." I was like, "Yeah."
Yo, I'm gonna be the boss now, so come work with me.
He was like, I'm not gonna go back to cutting hair ever again.
Man, I think there's just something that's bigger than me
Yeah.
that I'm not easy to quit.
Yeah.
I just can't just give up. Like, I'm not even talking about leaving staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about leaving the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just something that's bigger in me. I don't know if it's because my upbringing of like, like not in the ghetto or anything, but you learn things on the street.
Yeah.
Right.
You learn things in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And loyalty was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So it's almost impossible for me to just leave if it wasn't clear.
Right.
So I'm just like, all right, I'll thug it out. And I have a high pain tolerance physically,
Yeah.
but I think emotionally and mentally, I have a very high pain tolerance. I could withstand for a really long time.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just who I am.
Yeah.
That it wasn't something that I did per se. It was just something like I've always been like, I can't just leave.
Right.
I can't just leave, even though I really wanted to. It was just something that's like, man, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't at this moment. But yeah, you feel plenty of times that you don't belong.
Yeah.
That season and every season. But I think that if you don't feel like that, then what you're doing might be too small.
Yeah.
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
I think it has to be. That's not necessarily always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Feeling like, man, I shouldn't belong here. It's good, but you don't want to stay there.
Yeah.
You don't want
Yeah.
to stay in that cycle. Because I think that the most successful people, whatever we do, in church, business, whatever it is, I think the most successful people have this thing that it's very hard to accept that they are called for something really big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest hurdle that people usually have to jump over
Yeah.
is just accepting
Yeah.
that they are called
Yeah.
to something that's bigger and might be bigger than the people around them.
Yeah.
That's good.
And it's
Yeah.
hard for people to just
Yeah.
accept that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I feel like this is too big because no one around me is doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you
But-
only see what you see.
Yeah.
You know, you see the people around you. You're like, I don't know if we can do
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, so there's a way that God like speaks to me. I don't get visions, I don't get dreams. Unfortunately, I don't get none of that.
Right.
I'm the type of guy. I'm just like, God, I want to see dreams. I want to see visions. I want to see lightning.
Doesn't show.
I want to see everything.
Yeah.
And God's like, no.
You're gonna take it how I tell you, you know?
I don't get none of that.
Yeah.
But what I do get is a sense of direction per se from God.
Yeah.
That I know what's coming up next
Yeah.
without it even showing up physically.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I kind of knew where kind of like we were headed,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how to get there or anything.
Yeah.
But I just kind of
Yeah.
like slightly see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, not belonging is
Yeah.
part of the game. It's part of the game. But I think that the one thing that you can do is accepting that you might be called for something bigger
Yeah.
than even you believe. That's hard. That's hard for anybody to accept that, man, I might be called to something bigger than I've even seen in person. Might read about it, might see but to be in it is different.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that season. I know I've grown a lot from that season. I feel like I needed to go through that. There was a lot of pain that came from it, a lot of trauma that came from it. I've been in the therapy because of it, but I see it so necessary.
Yeah.
And for me, a different journey, I felt like me going off of staff was the best thing for me because I needed that for me because I would have been stuck into the same Joe. I needed that disconnect, right?
Yeah.
Where now I can realize, hey, I'm in a good place. I think in the future I could do that again and I could be healthier, right? If I would have stayed in it, I know Joe, I wouldn't have been okay.
Yeah.
So I see the positivity that came from the chaos that was there.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you experienced that? Because I've seen a different Fe. I've seen growth
Yeah.
from Fe.
Yeah.
I think, because I work alongside of you.
Yeah.
I see a lot that, how do you?
Yeah. I think that the way that I could put it in words, I feel like God just backed me to the wall.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, you're either going to grow or die.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to pick one.
Yeah.
And I just got pushed against the wall, and I had no other choice but to grow.
Yeah.
So I've experienced so much. Like I'm not the same person. But I think that the biggest reason I'm not the same person, it's not because of what I've done, but it's because I've opened my heart, like you said, to, hey, look at these inner parts of my heart that nobody knows about. Like that critical spirit, that negative, that hatred, that all that. Here, take it.
Right.
Like that was probably the biggest thing. It wasn't what I did.
Right.
It was, God, I'm going to open, even though I don't know what's in here. I'm scared of what's in here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to open up and you figure it out. Like, here's my heart. Then that was the biggest thing for me.
Good. Yeah.
Can you? So I know you did. You preached a message about like a few months ago about the critical spirit, right?
Yeah.
And I don't. Can you unpack a little bit of what?
100%.
Unpack that. Like, how do we deal with that critical spirit? Because I think when we go through the things that we go through, right? Churches that go through scandals, it's so easy for the people still in that church to stay critical and criticize every single thing that the staff does, every single thing that the new pastor does, every single thing that the volunteers do.
Yeah.
So can you unpack that for us? Like, how do we get rid of it? How do we address it?
Yeah.
And how do we deal with somebody who you love, that has that critical spirit?
The critical spirit is, I feel like it's like a silent.
Yeah. A silent killer.
Like 100%. Because everybody deals with it.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
Everyone.
For sure.
Before I can even unpack that message, I think I'll give you a backstory of me. When I said I hated everybody, that wasn't the first time that I hated everybody. I was in constant competition with other people, pastors, churches. I was like, these guys are corny. I don't want to be with these people. Like, I'm not trying to be like them, or I'm not like, look at the way that they're dressed. And it was just like, I just didn't like them. But I had to learn that it's okay if we're different, right?
Yeah.
It's okay if we're different. We're called to maybe reach different people.
1,000%.
And I think that comes also with like the accepting of yourself. A lot of times critical spirit comes from an insecurity inside of us.
That's good.
It's insecurity in me.
Yeah.
It's insecurity because if I know who I am, you can't know who you are unless you know your strengths.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I know my strengths and I'm confident in my strengths and I know what I'm good at, there's no reason for me to be critical.
Yeah.
The most humble people are the people that are able to not criticize because they know how strong they are.
Yeah.
It's always the humble who are secure. It's always the people that are arrogant and criticizing that are the most insecure.
Yeah.
It's always like that. So I think that the first thing is dealing with our insecurities. Like internally, like if I'm critical, then there's probably something inside of me that is insecure.
1,000%.
I need to figure out where that is.
Gotcha.
Because I feel like insecurity you can't deal with just in one area. Insecurity goes in a bunch of different areas in our lives, right? And I think that we can't just tackle it one place. It goes everywhere. So it's like, okay, I'm insecure about how I look. So what do I have to do in order to be less insecure about what I look like?
Gotcha.
Find out what I want for my body or my clothes. What do I like? What do I like?
Is that what you were insecure about? Like,
I was insecure about everything. I mean, I was so critical because I was so insecure. Wow. It's because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And I think even through that whole season, I was probably the most insecure because I had no type of direction.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's on me because I did know the direction, but I didn't obey it.
Right.
gotcha.
I didn't. God had told me a long time ago, but I ran from it.
Right.
Yeah.
I ran from it for years.
Yeah. I mean, there was a part of just bitterness, and I think everybody kind of had that too, though.
Yeah.
You know, like I was super critical, right? and it's something I always have to fight, because even in my role now, it's like, look around the church, find problems. That's critical, right?
Right,
That's
100%.
being critical, right?
Yeah.
And so it's fighting that spirit of, yes, I'm identifying things, but I'm doing it because of this, right?
Right.
Because we're trying to help. I'm thinking about first-time guests.
Yeah.
But it's something I constantly have to battle,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
because as I'm impacting myself, there is a lot of insecurities that I have, where I walk around with a confidence, but it's a fake confidence,
Yeah.
And definitely during that season, not trusting people. I was insecure about what my life looked like, like, I got kids, I got a wife. I don't know if I'm going to get fired tomorrow because we're not doing anything,
Yeah.
So 100%. That message spoke very highly to me, because I'm known to be kind of like that, critical, when we were voting, I wasn't happy the way we were voting. I wasn't happy the way, all those things, so man, God is good that we came on the other side of this, but
and the critical spirit, you can address it, facing your insecurities and all that. But I think that the biggest thing that was a turnaround for me was just honor.
Yeah.
When I had that moment that I saw honor the right way, everything shifted for me.
Yeah.
My whole mind shifted for me.
Yeah.
When I read that verse in 1 Peter and it says, honor everyone, even the emperor, man, I started Googling who the heck the emperor was.
Right.
And you find out that this is like a rapist, a child molester, pedophile, killer. And Peter's saying to honor this man?
Yeah.
So there's got to be something else about honor that I'm not getting.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Peter's saying to honor this.
Right.
Yeah.
How can I honor this?
Right.
And I think it's because honor doesn't have to do with our relationship with them. It has to do with our relationship with him. Like, I don't honor because of them. I honor because of him.
That's so
Because
good.
if I dishonor them, then I dishonor him.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because my mom one time, she was dealing with unfortunately with a man that he had molested his daughters.
Yeah.
And the guy, he was very sick, and he was very sick, and the family had actually called, like, can you come, can you pray for him, because he's dying, whatever. And I remember my mom told me this story. She was like, I went, I prayed for him. I knew already the type of man that he was. I knew that he had molested all his daughters, his own children. And she goes, and she told me, she's like, and I offered him, salvation. He prayed the Lord's, not the Lord's Prayer, sorry, the salvation prayer. And my first question, this is before I came to Christ, so I was very raw. I was like, what the F? I'm like, how the heck is this man going to get into heaven? There's no way. Like, what?
Yeah.
This dude just, his own kids, man. I'm not saying it's lesser if it's kids that are not his. It's terrible either way. But
You can't comprehend it.
you can't comprehend it, right? And that dishonor thing kind of goes with like the whole love of God, that grace that extends to the person who does these vile things, right? So same thing, the emperor that was a rapist, a murderer, all these things. It's like, man, I still got to honor this guy, And then with someone like this guy that my mom dealt with, she was like, I still had to love this guy. Like, I still had to show him.
Wow.
I still have to be a representative for Jesus for this guy, and offer him salvation and pray for him.
Yeah.
What's crazy too is that the moment that I made that switch and I started honoring, even though I didn't like them, even though I didn't agree with them, I just honored them. And honor also means not talking badly about them.
Yeah.
So I honored them. Like, even behind closed doors, I wouldn't speak badly about them.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's not a them thing,
Right.
It's a me thing.
Right.
And when I started to honor, my life propelled. Like, I grew in everything. Like, in leadership, I grew in my relationship, I grew in my marriage. Everything just levitated.
Yeah.
There's just a power and honor in honoring in general.
Yeah.
Power and honor.
That's why I'm at, like Renee said, it's so important to me, Oh, sorry. I got excited about honor. It's so important to me that we show honor all across the board, up, down, side to side.
Yeah.
First of all, I know some people struggle with honor, right? Because we got fed bad ways to deal with honor, right?
Yeah.
I know Pastor Eric and I had this conversation. Like, it's hard to honor because we dealt with honor in a bad way.
Yeah.
But it's so important. I'm going to hold the door for you, Pastor Yessie, Pastor, because that's an honor thing, right?
Yeah.
I am going to call you Pastor. Maybe not when we're in private, it's the AFA, but in public, 100% I'm going to call you Pastor because there's an honor part. I'm going to honor my buddies here. We're going to talk good about it. Going to talk good about the people that hurt me. That was the first thing that my therapist made me do. He's like, we're going to talk good about the people that hurt you. They hurt you, and we're going to deal with that. But we're not, because he's a Christian therapist. He's like, we're not going to move forward until you show some kind of honor, because you keep talking bad, it's going to keep giving you negative thoughts. And you're going to keep staying in this. And that was rough.
That is rough
because that season was so hard. The season right after coming off staff, the staff was hard, but coming right off staff, when I knew people that hurt me, that disrespected me, that people didn't know about, but I was still like, hey, I love you, whatever. This person's great, and everybody's clapping them up, and I'm like, they hurt me, but you know what? Because of the position they're at in my life, it's important. It wasn't about what they did to me, right? Because first of all, it's the relationship, but how can I receive honor if I'm not honoring?
100%.
And I wanted to be honored not because I'm good or anything. It's just because it's transactional, right? Like it's all transactional, and it shows. Just like when we call you Pastor Fe, or we open the door, or when Renee honors me in front of my kids, that's so important because we're showing them how to honor people. Like I remember Pastor Erica's like, stop calling me Pastor Erica. Don't open the door for me. I'm like, no, I'm going to show my kids. I'm going to show my kids this is important, So I'm 100% honor, but it was difficult when people are hurtful to you or mean to you. That's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. But that's the first thing my therapist's like, we're going to go after this. I'm like, oh, Lord, here we go.
Yeah, that's rough, man, and I applaud you for that. To go through that and honor at the other side of it it's powerful.
It's tough,
man.
Yeah. But I feel so good, because it's not a me problem anymore.
No.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that you don't even gotta like the person.
Oh yeah.
There's plenty of people I don't like. There's plenty of people I will not like.
There's one of us right here right now.
Chris is always bullying me. So.
I have a question. And in a way, I kind of want to do like a three-way question, because since Pastor Fe is a youth pastor, Alex, you're a youth leader.
Correct.
So I kind of want to tie it in parts, but I know you also have a question, so I want to, tie it in together. So take it away.
No. Go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, perfect. So since you guys are dealing with the youth, right? And that's such a responsibility in all truth, right? Like, you guys have the youth in your hands and you're doing everything you can to guide them, lead them the best way that you can. For you guys, how do you deal with that? Because Joe, Alex, as fathers, as you know, your kids will test your patience a lot.
And they
right?
see everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, like, how is it for you that, like, you're dealing with someone else's kids and you're trying to guide them and steer them? And Alex, how, like, when they come to you, and how do you guide them? So I guess, like, if you can tie it in together, of how does that look like for the youth and leading them?
Yeah, Alex, go. I would love to hear it.
Well, I think it's definitely a two-part question, because the respect that Pastor Fe is always going to get is always going to be different from the respect I'm going to get. And it's not taking away from me. It's just, obviously, he's looked at a higher standard.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's just what it is. For me personally, I try to maintain that same relationship that I do with my own kids, which is, yes, I'm your father, or yes, I'm an adult figure that you can look up to. I'll be cool with you, and I'll give you that space to create that friendship. But there's going to be times when I'm going to have to get serious and tighten up.
Yeah.
And
you're going to have to correct
you. Yeah.
Correct.
So important.
So, I've been faced with that, not only with my own girls, but then I've definitely been faced with it, being, involved with the youth, because a lot of the times it's kind of like my story at first. I remember when they were like, yeah, you're going to be a youth leader. And I was like, God, please just put me with the older kids because I think I'm going to be able to connect with these kids. You know, I know I'll really be able to make a difference. And they're like, nah, you with the kids in middle school. I can't connect with these kids. But you really could. You just got to find a way. You got to change that mindset.
Yeah.
Is really what it is, to the point where it kind of became like a second nature thing that I didn't start to even notice. And at times I would question myself, like, am I making a change? Are they listening? Are they hearing what I'm saying? Am I sometimes being too rough on them when, you know, when they go off or when they go off the rails a little bit? You know, you gotta bring it back in, and sometimes you gotta toughen up with them. So that would create a lot of questions. But then I guess that same opportunity, my kids would bring me back information, and it's like, oh wow, I am making a difference.
Yeah.
You know, to a certain extent, I'm making some type of difference because my kids will come back and they'll be like, hey dad, you know, such and such, you know, told me that I was lucky that you were my dad because they say that you're so cool. And I'm like, who said that? Oh no, such and such said that. And it's like, oh wow, he's in my group. You know, he's part of my, you know, my group. And it's like, all right, they are listening.
Yeah.
You know, I am touching, you know, some way, somehow I'm touching their hearts. I'm touching their minds to the point where it's like, let's just hear what he has to say. And I said, I guess a lot of times we get lost in transition or just doing what we normally do, that you don't catch those things. And then, you know, even like camp. Yo, you going to camp? Now I'm like, oh man, come on, man. Why you not going? And it's kind of, they pull your card.
Right.
And it's like, oh man, you know, I'm caught up, or you know, you have to explain to them because they're there, and they see everything that's going on. And if my daughter's going, if I tell them anything different from the truth, believe me, it's gonna get out, and then they're gonna come back and be like, yo, you lied to me, you know, you told me something different, or whatever the case. But they will pull your card, so you got to be upfront with these kids and honest. Is the only way that I guess you are gonna touch them and you are gonna reach them without, I guess, even noticing it. Because a lot of times we want to act like we're stepping on you know, we're stepping on thin ice with these kids because they're not ours. But they just want the truth.
Yeah.
100%.
And they could read through, you know, the fakeness, or a lot of the times what kids even sit there and I hear through the conversations is like the religion. You know. Sometimes there's kids that have come to me and it's like, hey, listen, this is what I'm going through. And I just try to be as open as possible with them. Obviously involving, you know, the word, but you got to be upfront with them.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, man, just go pray on it.
Come on.
You're going to end up losing that student, and they will never bring anything to you to get any type of feedback, because they're going to say, you're going to tell me the same thing every time, so go pray on it.
Yeah.
That's good. Wow.
Yeah. Youth ministry is not, it's different, but at the same time, it's not different. So let's say I don't know you, right? Let's say I don't know you, but I tell you to stop doing something.
Right.
You're not going to listen to me. It's only when I've deposited that I can withdraw.
That's so
So
good.
something that I believe, and I tell the leaders all the time, is don't try to correct. They're going to come in not speaking right. They're going to come in not honoring. They're going to come in just regular kids from outside of the street. But you need to first make a connection with them.
Yeah.
You need proximity with them first. It's impossible for you to try to deposit something inside of them if you didn't first have a relationship with them.
That's good.
I mean, we even had a moment last camp that we felt like there was a huge shift in our youth ministry. And it was, we were in the room and we started roasting them. But they were kind of like, man, they closed off.
Right.
At that moment, he felt something, and then I felt something, and I went up to him and the other leaders, and I was like, I feel like we got this different. I feel like we got this wrong. We need to start asking them about them. Not about the Bible, not about God, not even about camp. All of that is secondary. I want to get to know you. Like, who are you? How's your, like, if you have a job, how's your job? How's school? Did you like the food? You're making connection. Why? Because students are used to people talking to them. They're not used to people actually listening to them.
Wow.
So when they get somebody that is listening to them, if you do have to tell them something,
Yeah.
they'll do it, because they're like, man, I want to respect you,
Right.
because you're the only person that ever talked to me.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever cared. Like you got to let them know that you care first.
Right.
And then you can tell them, yo, if you do that again, I'll punch you in your throat. You know, like, but you can't,
Nothing like your youth pastor to tell you, you do that again, I'm gonna punch you in the throat.
you'd be surprised.
God bless you though.
I love you.
You'd be surprised when you have that proximity with them and you tell them like, hey, stop. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
They actually take a moment and they listen. And sometimes you don't even got to say anything. They'll come up to you and like, yeah, I knew that was wrong. I knew that was wrong.
That's good.
So it's just building that relationship first.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think it goes back to something I always heard, and is just people in general. People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
100%.
And that's really what it comes down to these kids. A lot of them, you don't know what they're being fed on the streets. You don't know what they're being fed at home. Some of them, it doesn't even have to go as far as the street. Some of them just the parents that they have at home, a step parent. Sometimes they don't have the best relationships with their parents. They're shut down from the moment they enter into that home.
Yeah.
The moment they, So a lot of the times we're trying not just to win them over, but to show them that, look, I was at where you were at one point in my life. I know what you're going through. My situation may be a little bit different from what you went through, but I definitely want you to understand that I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through. And man, a lot of times these kids, like even for me, I've built relationships with kids that a lot of times, like they'll call me. Yeah. They'll call me on my own time on a Saturday. Yo, Alex, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm here chilling. Why? What's up? Nah, man, I just want to talk to you. I'm going through this. So as you building it, it's really discipleship on a younger level. It's really what it comes down to.
Same thing.
The exact same thing. Just like how, Joe would say that, I'm willing to not only deposit into your life, but I have to see that there's a change coming. I have to see
The return.
The return, that fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if not, it comes to that point where it's like, okay, we've talked about the same things over and over. There's no change. We're either going to have to change this, or maybe I'm not the mentor that needs to get through to
Right.
Yeah.
and sometimes we got to be able to accept that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Youth ministry is it's the long game.
Yeah.
It's not a seasonal thing. If you're going to be in youth ministry, you can be with a student for 7 years and nothing has happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, that 8th year, they just have a mind shift. Something switches, something clicks inside of them. And everything that you've been telling them makes sense, but only because you were there. You've been there. You didn't give up on them. You were there. So I think that it's so important knowing that you're not here just for a moment. You're here I'm playing the long game with these students. I think that a lot of times in church, we get obsessed with just salvation. And I'm just, okay, I got 20 students saved today, or God saved 20 students in the service today. Yeah, but what about after?
Right.
Like, what's going to happen after? Like,
Right.
that's the important thing.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
good. It's good to calculate, but you need to think about what's going to happen after.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not the salvations. What are we doing after with them?
Right.
Playing this long game.
Yeah.
Right.
I even spoke about it yesterday in the youth ministry, in the youth, that it's not about just believing and loving Jesus. It's not enough to change you.
Yeah. A lot of people say that.
Yeah, and how many people have called me and they're like, "Hey, I'm going through this, but I believe in Jesus, but I love Jesus.
Right.
Why am I still going through this?"
Yeah.
Well, it's simple. You still haven't learned how to change your mind.
Yeah.
The very word repentance means change your mind.
Right. Yeah.
So nothing's gonna change until you change your mind.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That was good.
One last question,
Yeah.
at least for me. For you, since you just said it, it's about the long game.
Yeah.
So, as whether you're in ministry, whether you just work, have your day job, at the end of the day, you gotta, recharge,
Yeah.
rest. How does that look like for you after you do everything that you're so involved in? How do you rest? How is that, do you get poured into as well? Like, just talk to me a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I got our pastor, Pastor Matt.
Shout out, Pastor
He
Matt.
is man, he's incredible. If I have something, take it to him. I think rest for me looks like boundaries.
Talk about
That's good.
So I think that you need boundaries to rest, because if I'm not good, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not recharged, if I'm not good, then I'm not going to be good for that person. And Pastor Matt taught me this. He actually said that if you don't rest, then you're going to start resenting people,
Wow.
because there is always going to be a demand. Somebody's always going to need you.
Right.
Somebody's always going to need you.
Right.
Yeah.
But you need to learn how to lead yourself first before you can lead them.
Right.
You need to put up boundaries. Like, I have it on my phone that as soon as I leave work, it goes into like a rest mode.
Gotcha.
It goes into rest mode, and not every message comes in, only from specific people,
Got it.
and no work related stuff. So it's forcing myself how to rest, learning how to rest, because I don't know how to rest, to be honest.
Gotcha.
I'm actually in the process of learning how to rest.
Yeah.
Because my attitude and character has always been go, 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 go. And I could just keep going and keep going, keep going. And I get very tunneled vision that I don't care about nothing around me. I just care about what I got to do. And I can go, 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 go. And it's happened to me so many times. We had an event. It was a baptism. We had a baptism. And it was an incredible baptism. Incredible. It was the one that rained.
Yeah.
Then we were still baptized. It was beautiful.
Right.
And I felt it was amazing. It felt incredible. And when I got into the car, everybody left. I got into the car and I just broke down and I started crying. And I was like, I don't know why. It wasn't out of joy.
Right.
Yeah.
I felt so burdened.
Right.
But it was because I don't think I had rested at that point for like a year or year and a half. Not even one day off.
Yeah.
It was just constant.
Yeah.
Go, 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 go. And I hit the wall.
Yeah.
You never want to hit that wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to be aware of it's not time management, it's energy management.
Yeah.
How can you handle, how much can you handle?
Yeah.
So I broke down that day and I told Jesse, I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I just feel drained. I feel broken.
Yeah.
But everything's great.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense to me, and it was just, you just got to rest.
Yeah.
So then I took a couple of days off. It wasn't crazy, but I felt the difference. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I do got to learn how to rest. I don't know how to rest.
Yeah.
So I'm still in that process. I got to force myself.
Yeah.
I got to force myself to have boundaries.
Yeah, and that's funny because right now, me and my wife we're going through that season, and I've been, asking people. I've been asking the guys. I've been, talking to certain people. I'm like, man, how do you rest?
Yeah.
And it was Sandro was the one who told me. He was like, you just gotta. There's days where you just have to do literally nothing. Don't answer the phone. Don't even go work out. Nothing. Just stay home, stay with your wife. You just got to chill and do nothing. And, obviously pencil in some time with the Lord, fill your cup. But, because I feel you, bro. I've been in that season right now where I feel like I've been caught in the doing,
Yeah.
and a few weeks ago, I felt like the Holy Spirit told me, hey, it's okay to say no,
Yeah.
And the thing is, I thought that it was okay to say no to like things of ministry. Because, sometimes we just want to keep serving,
Yeah.
we just want to serve. We just want to be in the house and it's beautiful, right? To see people get baptized. To me, safety, one day tackling someone for Jesus.
We can only hope.
But to do all these awesome things for Jesus, but you still get burnt out. But to me, and God revealed it to me this week, funny enough, in a phone call, that it was like, I was never talking about ministry. I was talking about time with you, like what you do recreationally. So for example, every Tuesday after Essentials, what do? We go out and we eat. Every Sunday after church, what do? Go out and eat, and that right there is where the Holy Spirit was like, you're going to have to start saying no. And don't worry about the FOMO,
Yeah.
because obviously, it's my boys. I love spending time with them, and my wife loves them. So it's like, great, we all get to go out. We all get to have a great time. I love all these guys here, but that's where the Holy Spirit has been checking me, where it's like, it's time to start saying no. it's time to go home sometimes. It's okay to go home.
Yeah.
They're not gonna, if they're truly your friends, and obviously it's not you guys, I know you guys, but I'm saying, like, to anybody out there that might be in this struggle, if they're truly your friends, they're not gonna stop inviting you just because you say no. The invites will still come.
Yeah.
So I think that rest looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
1,000%.
I think we got to understand is that we have 2 cups.
Yeah.
We have our spiritual, but we also have an emotional cup we got to fill. And what you do spiritually will never fill the emotional one.
Yeah.
1,000%.
And I think that comes from knowing yourself, because to some people, rest might look like I'm going to go out and I'm going to spend time with the guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that fills me.
Right.
Because that fills me. You're like, if you're extroverted, then people fill you.
Right.
But if I'm introverted, then being alone fills me.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't like being with people.
Yeah.
There's so many introverts that love being with people, but they know that people drain them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of understanding.
I like
what
my
works for
people.
you.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of like understanding your energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah. Yeah.
understand
Like you said, energy management.
Yeah.
it's energy management, and I think that comes from just learning yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? What fills you? What filled me in one season doesn't fill me in the next.
It's good.
I was gonna actually ask you that. Like,
so-
does rest also look differently seasonal?
100%. Like Pastor Matt's constantly telling us, get a hobby. What's going to fill you?
Right.
What's going to? It used to.
My man's is picking up fishing now.
Listen, today I FaceTimed him like 3 times because he's looking for gear. So he's like, Joe, is this good? And he's so into fishing right now. He's so excited about
He's
it.
gonna be salt life for real.
Yeah, and he loves that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And what I love about him is that he's so open minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been able to learn from that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's so open minded. Okay, I want to be open minded. Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I'm trying to feel like, okay, what should I do? Like, what's
Right.
gonna fill me?
Yeah.
And on top of that, not every rest day per se looks the same for me.
Right.
Good.
So like one day I might be able to go and have lunch and that fills me, right? Let's
Yeah.
say per se. But another day it might be to go play basketball or
good.
pickleball or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just, or sometimes getting a haircut, whatever it is.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
kind of you got to know.
Therapy.
Yeah. You got to know what fills you and what drains you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to understand the dynamic about you because you're different.
Yeah.
was
No, it's
interesting.
true. And that's so true with, like, I got kids, right? So relaxing's a little different sometimes,
Yeah.
right? So I remember this last Sunday, Pastor Matt's like, hey, let's go to the beach after church. And I'm like, bro, we had a long day, and then we're gonna do this luncheon at 2:00, and then we're gonna go out. I'm tired, bro. It's a
for
long
sure.
day.
Yeah.
But when we got out there, I didn't realize that I need that on Sunday. Like, it was people like that I love, right? And we were all chilling, right? We were all like, took a minute to sit back, relax, and look at the beach, throw the poles in the water, have a little fun. And I'm like, I need this on Sundays. Like, I need this every Sunday, actually. Like, I feel like more of a drain is going out to lunch because trying to keep the kids sitting,
Yes.
not chaotic.
Yeah.
You know, like, they can go run, be at the beach, and dads are just chilling. The ladies are in the water. We're hanging out. We're catching fish, you know. That was very therapeutic for me. And I didn't realize that, right? So experimenting, trying new things, 100% super important. But there are Saturdays where it's like, hey, let's go to a zoo, right? Because Saturdays are our day. Like, I tried not to
family
plan
day.
anything on Saturday.
Yeah.
But there are also days where it's like, me and Judah are going to play video games all day, and you know, he's going to kick my butt because he's better at video games, 8-year-old. And then my wife and my daughter are just hanging out watching shows together,
Yeah.
and that's filling too, because just where we're at, right? For me, filling me up, it saddens me that you don't want to hang out because
That's not what I said.
no, okay. That fills me up, right? Like hanging out with people, like one-on-ones, like that fills me up. Without the kids, like that fills
Right.
me up. Hanging out with the boys, 100% fills me up. You
Yeah.
know, I just wish I had more time for it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement. Like, you know, find something that you know, try new stuff. Hanging out with the boys is fulfillment. Sometimes just being alone is
100%.
100%.
my therapist is like, so we're working through some couples therapy right now, and she's like, Joe, just find out what Joe wants. Like, go spend an hour, 2 hours this week, and just don't have your phone on, don't have the kids around. Like, send them away, pay for something to go do.
Yeah.
Like, just have some moment where you just figure out who's Joe. What is Joe like? What does Joe want to hear? You know.
Yeah.
and it's, it does fill you up, right? It just feels, you feel so rejuvenated.
And no amount of prayer,
Yeah.
no amount of reading will fill that emotional cup.
Yeah.
100%.
So true.
It won't.
Yeah.
It won't.
That's so true.
It's just figuring out what fills you.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
Yeah. Some people, go play some pool, go
it's
swim
so
in
many,
whatever,
so many
whatever it
different
is.
things.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? So like talking about that, introverted, extroverted,
Yeah.
knowing that it's not about being loud or quiet,
Right.
but it's what fills you, what drains you. Do people fill you? Do people drain you?
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. What do you guys think that you are? What do you guys think that fills you?
I mean, I'll go. I'm very extroverted, man. I don't like to do when I'm not doing anything. Right, I just feel terrible.
Yeah.
Right, I'm like, bro, what am I doing? Like, it's 6 o'clock and I have nowhere to be. This is crazy. Right. So obviously being around people, right, and edifying people too, right. Not just like, hey, like, let's watch something that's not appropriate, like
Right.
dumb comedy, right. But like just being around people, like my boys and stuff, that fills me, right. Compared to not doing anything, that emotionally that drains me. Not doing nothing.
Right.
Right?
And then I think I'm the adverse because I love you, bro. You're my best friend. I love you. But yeah, for me, it's the opposite because like I said, right now in this season, I've been telling my wife, I'm like, I don't want to see people. I don't want to hang out. I love everybody, but I just want to, as a matter of fact, I told her, I was like, for my birthday this year, I don't want to hang out with anybody. I want it to be just a trip, me and you. Let's just go to a hotel. I don't care if it's in the Keys. It doesn't have to be across the world or across the country, but just let it just be us,
Yeah.
And then whatever. If we do a little dinner afterwards, cool. I'm down, but I don't want to do anything crazy. I just want to, just chill.
Yeah.
And that's what fills me in this season. In other seasons for sure, hanging out with them, that's what fills my cup. And I'm not saying it doesn't fill my cup now, but I'm more towards like I need to just draw back a little bit, and just recharge.
Nothing wrong with that. I think that there's a misconception that people think that
Correct.
it's like,
So y'all ain't gonna make me feel bad.
Don't make me feel bad.
So
I'll try though.
It's not us, it's you.
Actually, 100%. There's that misconception though, right? Like, okay, if I love people, but I do need a break,
Right.
I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, even Jesus had to withdraw,
Yeah.
right?
To get away. Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm an extrovert or an introvert. I feel like I'm adaptable and I'm a little bit of both, right? So it just depends on the season I'm in, right? Like if I feel like we've been running, like I'm like, no, I need a
Need
little
a
time.
break, right?
But if I feel like, man, it's just not a lot of happening, like I want to go out to eat, and then even when I'm in the moment, right? Like when we're hanging out, I'm like, okay, are we gonna do something else after this? Because that's what's filling me.
Yeah.
Right.
So, because I adapt to my environment, right? Like, if we're with my friends, like people I really, really know, I divert to being loud and with everybody. But people I don't know, extroverts will still be extroverts.
Right.
I divert back to
Correct.
So I always find myself battling that. So I always find my peace and my what fills me is always different.
Yeah.
How I'm feeling. And that's why it's so important that you said it's an emotional thing, right?
Yeah.
It's 100% runs on your emotions, right?
Yeah.
It's probably the one area where it's important to know where your emotions are,
Yeah.
because that's the only thing that's gonna help it.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people look at emotions like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, God gave us the emotions,
For a
right?
reason, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're there.
Right.
He's not saying don't feel them.
Right.
But he's saying don't let them lead you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You can feel them.
Right.
Yeah.
You can feel them, and it's important to be able to feel, because imagine being drained, being numb
Right.
to feeling empty. You would never know
Yeah.
when to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you will lash out on somebody at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Because
1000%.
you chose to like, nah, I can't live on emotion. I can't live on emotion.
Yeah.
It's good to be aware of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say I'm an extrovert, but
You don't say.
but right. But I guess in turmoil in my life would be when I become an introvert.
Okay.
How can I put it? So I'm a clown with everyone. I'll talk to you. I don't have a problem talking to people. I don't have a problem, sharing conversation really. But if it's not someone that I am, truly, cool with or have a relationship with, then a lot of the times if I'm going through something, I think the hardest part for me is that like I wear like my feelings on my shoulders or whatever, and it's or not even on my shoulders, but just on my face. Sometimes it's visible.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, he's going through something. Obviously, that's not the normal him. So at those moments, I guess me knowing that I'm in that position is like I kind of like want to shy away just to not be noticed, and people be like, something's up, what's up, and kind of deal. So
Yeah, that's good. I think that you're 100% extrovert. From from the time that I've known you, I think that you just need some time to process things alone. But I think that your people feel you.
oh yeah,
People feel you 100%.
I just feel like we all connect 100%, but we're all very different.
Yeah.
Like between the introverts and the extroverts. Because now I'm the introvert. Right? So, for example, I'm very mellow, very chill. Just as the Spanish saying that I got from Chris is tranquilo y tropical. I'm very chill. But I think because of the season that I am in my life as a single man, as someone who, is trying to do everything I can to walk with the Lord and live righteously,
So,
it is vital for me in this season not to be alone. Because it's kind of like what Joe says, you gotta be aware of how dumb you can be, right?
Yep.
So
it's good.
That's the best one right there, Joe.
so it's like, all right, if I know that I'm with people, men of God, that are gonna, because each and every single one of these guys have direct access to pull my card if I'm out of line in any way, shape, or form. And I appreciate that because I need to be checked.
Oh.
So, me going out to lunch or just getting coffee or whatever it might be, like, yeah, I'm introverted, but it gets me out of my bubble. It holds me accountable and it edifies me at the same time.
Oh.
I know later on it might look different. If I get married, if I have children, I know everything is always changing, right? That's why they call them seasons.
Yeah.
But for me, it's definitely, I'm very like laid back, very mellow, introvert for sure. But for me, it's like doing life with people. That's why I do what I do at church, at the dinner party, hang out with the boys. Because I need it, because as much as I can pour out into someone else, everyone that I'm in proximity with pours into me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what it does for me.
Yeah.
That's good, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
it's fire.
So I have a question for you, right? As a youth pastor, right? So any future parent or even a parent that listens to this podcast, right? How would you encourage them, right? If their kid is not wanting to go to youth, right, on a Wednesday, right? What would you encourage them with?
I think that everyone has to understand that discipleship doesn't start the moment they get to church. It starts at home.
Yeah.
Discipleship starts at home. And I think that I would tell them to start incorporating God in their household.
Okay. That's good.
Incorporate God into their household and let them see what somebody that's walking with God looks like by example.
Yeah.
Not just by saying, but by example.
Yeah.
And I think that, some thoughts might be, I'm taking my kid to church. Okay, that's it. I'm going to let you handle them. I'm going to let you disciple them. But in reality, discipleship starts at home. I mean, we can be in youth ministry and we can try our best. But as soon as that kid goes home and their parents feed them something else,
Yeah.
That's it.
everything we did doesn't really matter.
Goes to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it starts
Yeah.
at home.
And sometimes we even got to check them. Like sometimes you got to check these kids, as crazy as it may sound, because they're coming from home with that already. So it's like sometimes I got to be honest with them. Like, look, I do this from my heart because I want to serve.
Yeah.
I want to make a change in my community. I want to be able to help you guys, because if I had somebody that was doing what I'm doing for you guys done for me, my life would have probably played out a lot different.
Sure.
Or maybe I wouldn't have gone through as much adversity as I did go through.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes you got to let them know, because they do come with that from home, where it's like, well, you're going to fix me here, or you're going to kind of take care of everything here from this point on. And it's like, nah, it doesn't necessarily, even work that way. This is a two-way street. I'm willing to meet you, but you also got to meet me somewhere along the lines or show me that
Right.
you're looking to change.
100%.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important, and it's something that we push in our youth ministry so much is that we need to not just connect with the student, but we need to connect with the parent.
Yeah.
It has to be a teamwork thing.
Yeah.
It's not just, I'm just going to disciple the student and then I'm not going to have a relationship with the parent.
Good.
Has to be all around. Like, we don't just care about the student, we care about their whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We care about their mom, their dad, we care about them. So we're big on building relationships, not just with the students, but with the parents too.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So I guess as a youth pastor, but I guess
Not as a bro.
but
As a bro pastor.
as a bro pastor, yeah.
Discipling the bros.
There you go. Yeah. Listen, that's what we're doing, right? It's discipling bros. But I guess my question is not just as a youth pastor, but as a pastor. Now that you have that mantle of responsibility on you, right? Like you have this burden. Something that my wife told me a while ago was that we disciple by the way that we live, right? So how do you, as a pastor, right? Forget it, not just youth, but I'm saying as a pastor, because obviously everyone at our church sees you, sees your wife, and we're like, these guys, they're people of God. They have something on them, the anointing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, make sure you're always purified, living a righteous life, living a life above reproach, right? Like the Bible says to always live your life above reproach. How do you maintain integrity outside of the church, behind closed doors as a pastor? Because I feel like, my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's a totally different maybe ball game. Like you've really got to keep yourself in check when you're responsible for other people's, basically their lives, their souls, right?
100%, man. I think you got to approach it with fear and trembling. Right? It's a big thing.
That's good.
And I approach it with fear and trembling because I fell in love with God so much that I don't want to do anything that's not aligned to his heart. So my integrity stems from that. But the way I maintain it, there's only one way, is through accountability.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Staying accountable. I check in with PMAT. Hey, this happened. This is how I'm feeling. I feel like I've told them everything. So it's just you need that accountability, and it's important because anyone can fall out of that.
Right.
And I think understanding that not one of us is exempt from falling, no matter what, no matter how anointed, no matter what giftings, no matter if you can preach or you can lead or whatever it is, all of us can fall, lose our integrity in an instant.
Right.
And it's like, I fear it so much, so I need accountability.
Right.
I need it.
Yeah. And that reminds me, and I'm sure you've heard of him, John Bevere.
Yeah, 100%.
The awe of God.
Hello.
He touches on that. He's like, being in reverence, right, and fearing God isn't like, oh, I'm afraid that he's gonna smite me if I sin. No, it's fear of distancing myself from him because I sin. Because when we sin, the Bible's clear, right? He can't be around sin. Like that's why God sent Jesus, because he couldn't come down anymore once Adam and Eve, messed up.
Yeah.
So he has to stay up there. He sent his son on his behalf to do what he had to do, right? So that mentality, I think, is the perfect picture of that, of keeping that integrity and living that life above reproach.
And I think that comes from a place of gratitude.
Yeah. I think he mentions that too.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to listen to it. But it comes from a place of gratitude, because I actually heard this song the other day and it said, nothing is a sacrifice for the one who saved me. Nothing is a sacrifice.
That's good.
Because I'm so grateful for what he did in my life
It's good.
that if this is the way you want me to live, then I'm fine.
Yeah.
If this is what you want me to give up or not do or do, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Because I honestly feel I would not be alive if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
I would have killed myself a long time ago.
Gotcha.
Wow.
100%.
I want to change it up if everybody's good with that. I want to ask some fun questions.
Yeah, let's go for it. 100%.
Well, I don't know if they're fun, but I mean, it's the fun part of life, you know? We kind of talked about her a little bit. Let's talk about Yessie and how you guys met and how
Shout out Pastor Yessie.
Yeah. I love you and I love Yessie. I know when I was on staff, you guys were like my solid ground there.
Sure.
We're a lot alike.
Yeah.
The group, you know, I really relate to Yessie. She's got a good heart. You know, she's a good person. So let's talk about that. What is? How did that start? How did you guys meet?
Man.
All that, and then maybe we could go into like where's the next step for you guys?
Yeah, 100%. So I met Jesse as a youth leader. So we met at church.
Okay.
We met at church. At that time, I was actually dating somebody else,
Okay.
but she was doing her own thing. She had whatever dating or whatever she was doing.
Dating that scrub.
So we met in youth ministry, and she always says the story. She's like, when she first saw me, she didn't like me.
Yeah.
But she didn't like me because everybody knew me. And I'm like, you're just hating on me. You're just hating on me. So we met in youth ministry, and then we served together. You know, she's awesome. She was cool.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, everything happened with the breakup, you know, we went our separate ways, this and that. The person left. She moved to Orlando, I think. And then me and Jesse, just high capacity leaders serving together. We just became really close friends.
Yeah.
Legit friends. Like
good.
I'm talking about through the whole prodigal season.
Yeah.
She was there.
Right.
She knew everything about it.
Yeah.
She knew like me messing around with this girl doing all these things.
Yeah.
And she was dating people, and she would help me through these issues, and I would help her with her guy issues. Like, we would just give each other advice. Like, yo, from a girl perspective, what do you think?
Yeah.
What should I do?
Yeah.
And it was literally, there's no agenda. It was legit a best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A best friend. And then we would sit in the car and we would just literally just talk, but as friends. And it was always like, man, it'd be great like to date somebody like you, but not you.
Just make it clear.
It was always that's from me and always from her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I think just spending more time together, I feel like
God was like, hey.
I think that our fear, we started like catching feelings, but I think that our fear was we didn't want to mess up the friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that we thought that once you start dating, that's it, the friendship is gone. But I think that that's our foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our
Yeah.
foundation.
100%.
Like
Talk about
we
it.
are best friends.
Yeah.
So therefore, this is why everything works.
Right.
Right.
Because we're able to be open about everything.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
knows literally every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
She knows everything that I've done. She knows where I've been. She knows everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's just being my best friend has been the best thing.
Yeah.
Then whatever, fast forward, we started dating. We secretly dated for like 8 months just because we wanted to make sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Before you announce it to the whole church.
Yeah, it was just like,
Especially with youth.
yeah, and
They
that,
take
that was
sides.
that was the biggest
Right.
thing because they're gonna pick sides.
Right.
So we're just like, okay, let's just see if this is actually something that we
Right.
want to do.
Yeah.
So then we tried it. It worked out. Got married 2 years later, and we're here.
Yeah.
I think we're going on. 2019. So what is that? We're going on 5 years. Yeah, 5 years.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's the reason I asked is, my story and Laura's story is very similar,
Yeah.
except we weren't serving together. She was my leader, I went after the
wow.
old one. Yeah.
That's like doing
Oh.
So we were,
Wait a minute.
I was in a college ministry and she was the overseer of the college
Okay.
ministry. So, but because of she was older and she was my leader, a lot of that we were sitting in the car talking, just being friends. I remember she tried to hook me up with people, like her best friend. She tried to hook me up with. She felt like, oh, he's too young, She tried to hook me up with somebody from church, that we knew. It was just literally that. And I remember when her grandmother was going through it, like passing away, her mom was sick. I was just there for her. We were just so
Yeah.
close, and it was the same thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, you guys are gonna date," and we're like, "No, not at all.
No way.
We're just
Yeah.
friends, bro. Like that's it. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Because I was the same age of all the guys that she was leading to. Like
Right.
those guys are my age. Like that
Right,
she
right,
calls
right.
brothers, son, like younger guys. I'm the same age as them. Right?
Yeah.
So, but there was a moment where, like you said, it was just like, I don't know. I think I'm catching some feelings for you.
Right.
And we were babysitting our buddy's son. So I lived in with, it was like 3 interns and a baby. That's how, so we were all interns at the church, and then one of them had a daughter. And so we were babysitting the daughter, and I had handed over the baby, and she touched my hand, and then I'm like, oh. And then she was like, oh.
Whoa.
But the same thing, we were in youth, we
Yeah.
were leading youth. So it was like we weren't going to tell anybody
Right.
until we knew, because exactly what happens, and I think this is the fear, is that if we do break up, because we did break up, that the kids will pick sides, right?
100%.
And you don't want to split up the ministry,
Right.
And so some people are like, oh, you're being too legalistic. No, like we're protecting people's hearts.
100%, yeah, for sure.
But same story, man. Like we
That's
eventually, we got married and all that. We figured it out. But the foundation of our relationship was, bro, we were friends. So at the end of the day, no matter what happens, we might go through it all, but we're friends and we know everything about each other.
Yeah.
So same story. Yeah. So,
I love it, man.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. You guys are good people.
Oh, man.
Good people.
Thanks.
Yes, he doesn't know this, but I call her my boss. Whenever I'm at church, it's like, oh, there's my boss. But obviously in like a loving way, because she's
I
always
think she was all our boss at one time.
right. She was all of our
oversaw
boss
me
at some
one
point. Technically,
She's her
the boss.
capacity is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
yeah.
Her leadership capacity, the things that she does.
Yeah.
I try to learn from her.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you're incredible at what you do.
Oh, 100%.
The greatest discipler that I know. It's just incredible. Her fruits show it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone that gets close to her,
Oh, yeah.
just
1,000%.
I look like people that she leads, like Steph. Like Steph
Oh
is
my
on
gosh,
fire,
man.
bro, and that's somebody that she leads well.
Yeah.
And yes, he has a high capacity. It's just,
insane.
like I could do one thing that she could do. She could do like
Facts.
10 things, and it's like her brain, the way it works.
she was at one point she was running the church.
Yeah, yeah,
Legit. It was just like she was doing everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, hold up, let me help you out. 'Cause
Right,
I feel like but she
You
just,
ain't got to do it all. You ain't got to do it all. Shut up.
but she just be throwing the book bag on and carrying.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah. So what's next? What do you guys? What's your goals? Like what do you?
100% getting out of debt first.
Yeah.
Credit card debts, all these things.
Feel you on
Super
that.
annoying.
Yeah.
Just handling that first.
Yeah.
And then we definitely want to start with the kids, right?
Okay.
But I think that it's not like this is we're gonna do this. It's like, okay, we're open to
Right. Open to the idea.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So now we're just like chilling. So I think that would be next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh snap! Little baby Faye running around. That's crazy.
Just walk around like this.
Oh yeah, that baby's gonna come out yoked immediately, full of tattoos too, just straight up.
right off the bat, benching like 300 pounds.
That's gonna be one vegan powered pregnancy, man.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
plant power for real.
Oh man, I had one question that it doesn't have to do with like relationship, but I guess it does, because I heard it the other day, and we talked about accountability. We talked about chilling with the bros and all that stuff, and I saw a reel the other day on Instagram. That a guy, it was titled why the boys need the boys. And it was kind of along the lines of like what we were saying, that sometimes being with people feels that stuff. And this guy was talking about like he's like, your spouse, right, or your girlfriend, whatever, can't be your only person. This is one aspect of what he was saying.
100%.
Can't be the person that you open up to the way that you would open up to your boys. Because if you keep going to your wife, and the way he explained it, I was like, man, this is so true. He said that if you keep going to your wife with all your problems, right, all your emotional problems, all the things that you would normally talk to the guys about, you start forming a weird dynamic with your wife where now she's like your mom. And then instead of having one mom, now you have two moms. You have your biological mom, and then you have the mom you technically married.
Yeah.
You know, and it starts she starts feeling like she has to nurture you through all of your problems. You know, because because when you go to a parent, what do they do? They offer you solutions.
Yeah.
They're like, man, mom, I'm going through this. Boom, they give you a solution, right? They try to help you to solve the problem. But he was like, the reason why the boys need the boys is because he was like, you know, this right here, iron sharpens iron. And it was a really manly like podcast because they were all sitting around a campfire. All the guys look like Faye. All the guys look like Faye. You know, but and he was just saying how, you know, being with the guys is therapeutic. You know, and I'm gonna tell things to the guys that, you know, I won't tell my wife, not because it's a secret or anything terrible, but the emotions that I'm feeling, the thoughts that I'm going through. There's things that guys go through that, you know, women don't, and there's things that women go through that guys don't.
100%. Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing. You know, the adverse is like, if your wife is always coming to you with problems, it kind of forms that weird dynamic where it's like, am I like a dad now? You know.
Well, I think we have to play off of our pros and cons as people, because we're just wired different.
Yeah.
Guys are designed to fix things.
Yeah.
You know, women vent. We want to fix that problem.
Right.
That's our way of, okay, I heard you and I want to help you.
Yep.
Right. Because we're
You know,
fixers.
right. And their
100%.
eyes, they don't even want you to fix anything.
They just want you to listen.
They just want you to shut up and listen.
Right.
But in our mind, the moment we start hearing these things, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to do
got
this.
solutions.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, we do this, you know.
Like they
it'll
telling you
work
about
out.
how Becky ruined their day at work, and you're like, man, you want to go fight her? It's like, no, I don't want to fight her.
I'm going to drive you to work tomorrow.
I just want you to hear me. It's crazy.
But yeah, that's true, man. And I don't know. I guess like maybe we can go around real quick and we'll wrap it up after that. But you know, what is our opinions? What are our thoughts? What is something that we've gained personally about that situation or those moments where it's like, man, the guys need the guys?
Yeah. I'll speak on it. I mean, I think I've said this, I don't know if here or somewhere else, but you know, there are things that our wives shouldn't carry. You know, things that we have, right? The burdens that we have, they shouldn't carry those burdens, right? Not everyone, but most men deal with, you know, sexual issues, right? Like thoughts, right? Because we're very visual, we see things, and I can't go to my wife and say, I'm struggling at this person at church wearing this, right? Because then she's going to feel insecure about herself. She's going to think there's something wrong with her. And that's not a burden that she needs to carry, right? And there's also other burdens, like financial burdens, right? I can't go to her and say, hey, man, I'm worried about this, then this, because now it puts a worry on her when I'm supposed to protect the family, right? She's going to know that we have where our money's at and all that, but that I'm worried about it or anything, she doesn't need to know that, because she needs to know that I'm okay with this. We're going to get through this. I'm going to fix it. But I need the boys to be like, Renee, man, how do you do it? Because I'm struggling here and it's tough right now. And I don't want to tell my wife this because it's not because I don't want to tell her because I'm trying to hide anything, like you were saying. It's to protect, because we're protectors, right?
And it's not about having like a mask either
100%.
and faking it,
no,
right? Because
I cry in front of my wife, you know, and I tell her, hey, I'm going through a rough time. She doesn't need to know exactly what that rough time is, you know, like, hey, I'm dealing with it. You know, she knows my problems, my issues. Obviously, we go to couples therapy, so you got to talk about it, which is very difficult. So she knows those things, but she doesn't need to know the specifics. Like, hey, somebody walked by me today, and it triggered me, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't need to know that, because in her head, it puts fear in her head, right? So I need to call Renee and like, hey, Renee, I'm struggling with this right now. I need your help. I need you to come save me, come pick me up, whatever, you know? So I think for me, the boys are there for that, right?
Yeah.
They're there to carry the burdens that our wife shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
So,
Pastor Faye, you want to add something to that?
No, I agree 100%. You definitely need men.
yeah.
You know, men need men, women need women. And it's just some things that you don't want to bring to your wife. I mean, you rather, I need help.
Yeah.
She might not see it the way that I need.
Right.
Yeah.
But my friend will.
Right.
Yeah.
So the difference, you need friends. You need
Yeah.
friends of the same sex, 100%.
It's good.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely need friends for sure. that's why even like for me, every Friday I mean, you guys will see it, that I would post every Friday, like I would get a haircut and I'll put, therapy was a success for that purpose. Because a lot of the times, it may not even be, godly conversations, but the conversations that you have in a barbershop amongst all these men that are there, you're not going to have anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I remember my kids would be like, hey, Dad, can I go with you? Like, no. You staying home. And even if there were times that I kind of had to bring them, that I was forced to, I would try everything in my power to keep them in the car. And then I would go in the barbershop, get my haircut, and I'll come out. And it wasn't necessarily because they were ruining my therapy or, that time, but it was just more so because there's certain things that are being spoken about in those barbershops that kids don't even need to be around.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing, even with your spouse, you definitely do need that community. Obviously now to me, I enjoy getting my hair cut, but that's not that therapy for me anymore. Now this is that therapy. Because those conversations are different now. Now, if I am struggling with something, now I could talk about it, and I talk about it amongst my brothers that will either hold me accountable, they're gonna guide me the correct way, they're gonna guide me with the word, opposed to just, hey man, this is what I would do. And you're letting somebody else kind of get in your ear when you got brothers that can hold you accountable to it.
Yeah, that's good.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, right? The only thing I would add on is, maybe in the season of someone that you're going through a struggle, right? I think you could bring it up to your wife in a season that it's not that current season, right? After the season is over, right? And, and I think for women, it would be important to know, hey, man, why were you acting like this? Or what was tormenting you, right? What was that struggle that you were going through, right? And I think as a husband, right, that, in a marriage or even in a dating season, right, vulnerability and transparency is something big, right? So maybe even bringing that up in a future setting would help too.
Yeah,
You just have to be careful because you got to guard her heart too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to take away that image once you once they have it, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's you kind of tarnish that, to a certain extent. Where with the guys, there's really no tarnishing. The tarnishing comes if it's like, all right, we've had this conversation like 15 times already, my boy. Like, you ain't trying to change. There's not much I can do, tell you, or read to you.
Right.
You just ain't trying to change.
Yeah.
But I'm with you on that one because there's certain things that I think even if you do say it later, that's always going to be in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
Like even if something as tedious as what somebody was wearing, put me in a different space in my mind, then it's kind of like they're always going to keep an eye out for that person for whatever,
Now you've put her on guard unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I'll just give you an example. I screwed up. I've never physically cheated on my wife, but I've done a lot of stupid things. Right. And, she found out, right? Like she found out those things, revealed it, and we're working through those things, right? And so now she knows what I've done, right? She's had to do more therapy, needed more help in the season than I did because of what I did to her, right? And so she's had to work on herself more than I've needed to work on myself, right? Like, so what I don't want to do is, hey, babe, I'm struggling with something, and here it is, right? Here I'm struggling with something. I'm getting help for it. I didn't disgrace you. I didn't do any of that because that's important too. If I did do something that hurt her, then yes, I let her know, right? That's important. But hey, I'm struggling with this. It's not you. I'm working on it. I got the guys. That's the transparency that needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
If there are things that I tell my wife, like, hey, like my boss was rough on me today. I want to quit my job. Like that stuff, that gives a little fear to her because like, hey, you got a good job. Like we got insurance, all these things. Those things I can open up to her because it's not going to put insecurities in her because I know her head, right?
Actually, that probably even serves as encouragement at that moment.
Yeah, because she knows me. Like if I lose my job today, I'm going to go find a new job tomorrow.
Sure.
Right.
So that doesn't put insecurities into her because I've quit my job before, like just out of the whim, and I found a new job. But if I tell her, I saw this girl and it put bad thoughts in my head and I'm struggling with this, instantly she's like, well, it's because I'm this way, I'm not doing the right things to you, I'm not being a good wife, and then she has to go deal with it on her own. So I'm not disagreeing with you, Chris, 100%. I'm just saying that as a husband and somebody that has screwed up and messed up, I have to be careful.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
I need to guard her heart. And even having a conversation 10 years later about something that happened 10 years ago will still mess her up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that to her.
They don't forget.
Yeah.
Never, dude.
Well, no, you just rehash something that she needs to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was literally having a conversation with someone on Tuesday before Essential started. And I was telling them about how, you know, I tell my wife, I'm transparent with my wife, you know, I'm very transparent with her, where I tell her, and I've told her this even before we got married, I was like, listen, getting married doesn't make the world ugly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's still going to be, you, to me, are the most beautiful girl, and I chose you. Mm-hmm. You are my wife, and I love you. And I'm going to do everything I can to honor you and to love you and to respect you and make you happy and all this stuff. And there's still other beautiful girls in the world.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And us as men, we're visual creatures, right? But that's where self-control comes in.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you have to control your thoughts, because the Bible's very clear. As you think, so you are, right? So as soon as you look at a girl and you start thinking lustful thoughts, you've already committed adultery. Jesus made it abundantly clear.
Yeah.
He did not mince words with that.
Yeah.
You know, so that right there is that type of like, you know, that's where you stem that self-control in, right? Where it's like, man, the guilt that would fall on me if I start picturing anything perverted with this girl that I'm looking at, is going to kill me, right? And then like Joe said, if I do anything that hurts my wife, absolutely, I go and I tell her. And I have told her when I've messed up myself, you know? But, also I've never physically cheated on my wife, but I've done stupid things myself. And obviously I've told her, and I was telling this person on Tuesday, I was like, look, man, I've told my wife that. I've told my wife where it's like, yeah, there's other girls that are attractive. That doesn't make you any less attractive. It doesn't make them any more attractive. It's just, it is what it is, the world we live in. And I know, and my wife has told me, of course, there's other handsome guys in the world. None of us are blind. And this person was so astounded by the fact that it's like, you tell your wife that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, I tell my wife, because what do I gain out of lying to her?
Right.
Like, what do I gain out of hiding that from her?
You playing right.
You know, like, what do I gain out of it? Like, if she ever asks me or anything, why am I going to lie to her? Just keep it a buck. Now, what I told him, I was like, this is where the transparency has a boundary, right?
Yes.
I'm not hiding anything. I'm not lying, because to you guys, I'll tell y'all the truth, you know, and I'll tell you everything, right? Because I need to get it out. Because there's been times where I've told Richie, I'm like, yo, I need you to know this so I can get it out, you know? And the second you confess, bro, burdens come off of you like that, you know? And it's not confessing anything terrible, but it's just confessing like, hey, I find this person attractive. I need you to, like, you know, keep me accountable, whatever. The boundary is, you don't have to give your wife those exact details, right? Of names, stuff like that. Like, hey, this person wore this and it, you know, little spark in me, because that right there, you're not guarding her heart, right? Mm-hmm. The way that, you know, like Joe and Alex are explaining, you have to be super careful, right? And have that discernment of like, all right, I know what I can tell her up until this point. The rest is for the guys, you know? Because then again, now you've put her on guard unnecessarily. Yeah. And then if it's someone that you work with, if it's someone that goes to your church, if it's someone that you have to be constantly around, you know, think about how she's going to feel and what she's going to think constantly. Okay. Like, oh, he's at work and he's around this person. It's going to drive me nuts. Like, no, there's no need to, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So always have that discernment, always practice that wisdom. Again, it's not about having a mask or faking anything, but there's just certain things that you tell the guys, the whole thing, and there's certain things that you have to, you know, keep it on reserve when it comes to your spouse. And that goes both ways. Yeah. Because if she did that to you and she told you, hey man, this guy, and gave you all the details, how are you going to feel? You're going to be like, I don't look like that. Right. You get what I'm saying? You're going to feel the same way and it's going to suck. So you also have to put yourself in their shoes.